o'clock. We almost have 30 people in the room. We're just one short. So why don't we go ahead and get started for this morning? Rosemary, would you like to inspire us and kick us off?
This is a big expectation to do inspiration, but I've been thinking, and I want to welcome everybody here today to our open table where we learn from one another with respect and take up the ongoing challenge to end homelessness in Pierce County. As we meet virtually from multiple locations in the region of the Salish Sea and Mount Tahoma, we acknowledge our debt to the continuing shepherding of the earth by the native peoples of the Salish Sea, especially the Puyallup tribe of Indians. Today, I'm thinking about respect and belonging and how celebrations and research data and local policies reflect what and whom we decide are deserving of respect. This past Tuesday, March 15th, the U.S. marked Equal Pay Day. This is the day symbolizing how far into the new year women must work to earn what men earned the previous year. On average, this gender pay gap means working women lose out on as much as $10,000 annually, with women making 82 cents for every dollar a man makes and women of color making even less. I've seen comments arguing that it's just a matter of which jobs women and men choose and their associated differences in pay. But I know it's deeper than that. And I ask, which jobs and careers and positions of responsibility does any culture make available on the basis of any group difference? Real respect for the gifts of all of us would not result in an annual Equal Pay Day. And what about the other holiday, the one we're celebrating today, St. Patrick's Day, with odd and mostly not very Irish traditions about wearing green and pinching and kissing and for some binge drinking? This day can also be seen as a sort of National Immigrants Day, marking claims about a new hybrid identity that celebrates one's heritage, but with an embrace of the new presence in an adopted land. This is a day that arose in part as a response to the lack of respect these new immigrants experienced after fleeing starvation in the Irish potato famine and enduring profound injustice by the British. As other new immigrants have experienced, they were treated as racial others, subject to negative stereotypes, characterized in stock theater productions as the comic Irish, happy, lazy, stupid, with a gift for music and dance, who often ended up in paddy wagons, named for Patrick, for their shiftless, unhoused presence on the streets of their adopted cities. While the pervasiveness of posted signs and policies of, quote, no Irish need apply in terms of employment is disputed, there's plenty of evidence that these new immigrants were not treated with respect. I can understand the power of creating a celebration to honor their humanity. So for those of you who celebrate it, happy St. Patrick's Day. But thinking about St. Patrick's Day and the experiences of early Irish immigrants on the streets of Boston led me seamlessly to thoughts about our many neighbors living unhoused in Pierce County, and about Tacoma's sweeps and encampments and the buffer zone camping ban that uses a new form of paddy wagon, threat of citation or arrest for non-compliance of the order to move on, and about Lakewood's consideration of a complete city buffer zone, with unhoused folks transported anywhere within a 35-mile radius for potential shelter options, and about a statement made during a recent public meeting by a person of influence in Pierce County, quote, if the homeless don't accept help, they can die in the blue tarps, wrapped up in their rights. And they have died, and they'll continue to die on our streets, clearly not wrapped up in respect. So today I'm feeling mostly anger, and that makes it challenging to conjure centering thoughts about the importance of respect for the most vulnerable among us. I'm looking forward to other feelings when we talk today about fostering creativity with our communities of unhoused neighbors. And to move beyond anger and to center us for our work today, I will end with words from a favorite author of mine, activist, poet, essayist Audre Lorde. She was reflecting some years ago on issues of power, apartheid, and police brutality. And she says, I am filled with a sense of urgency and dread at the apparently random waves of assaults against people and institutions closest to me, urgency to unearth the connections between these assaults. I sit before the typewriter for days and nothing comes. It feels as if underlining these assaults, lining them up one after the other and looking at them squarely might give them unbearable power. Yet I know exactly the opposite is true. No matter how difficult it may be to look at the realities of our lives, it is there that we will find the strength to change them. And to suppress any truth is to give it power beyond endurance. Lorde's words are a call to continued action and reflection. we can respond as individuals and as a coalition with strength and persistence and respect. Welcome again to the work. So, with respect to our meeting, I just will remind us, we have a few new people here, of the norms we use when communicating with each other. That is to keep your mute button on when you're not speaking, and to stop your video if you are doing things that might be distracting, but to keep it on if possible to interact with us. And that we also ask you to use the hand raise function to speak, and to, in terms of our community norms, to attend to the notion that there are now 55 among us, and so we want to not take up too much space in our comments. We use the chat for additional questions and comments, and in fact, the chat is a place that we save, has lots of good information. People send their contact information there, and if you're with a small or new group and would like to share your experience with us and what you offer, you can contact Teresa Power-Drudas. She's got her thumb up there, and we'll be very happy to have you have a spot on our program. So keep up the talking and pay attention to one another, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Rob will do introductions of anybody. So if anybody's new today or coming back after a while away, just unmute or raise your hand and we'll call on you. And we just want a small comment here, your name and any group that you may be associated with. So I see one already. Nat.
Good morning, everyone. So this is my first time with the meeting, and my name is Nat. I'm working with the Inside Passaic Pierce County now, and today is marked as my second day at the Inside Passaic.
Well, welcome to the work. Thank you for coming,
you.
and I hope we see you more often too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to working and learning from everyone more.
Thank you. Welcome, Nat.
The homeless population and the resources. Thank you.
All right, Evan.
Good morning, folks. My name is Evan Keffler. It's not my first meeting, but it has been a while. I work with Pierce County Council Chair Ryan Mello at the Pierce. I already said that, Pierce County Council. But good to be here, and yeah, thank you all for your work.
Welcome. Wonderful to have you, Evan, and thanks for everything you're doing on this, promoting the 1/10 of 1% tax. It's really important. Anyone else? Can you see anyone, Rob?
Oh, I see lots of people, but nobody raising their hand. So
Lots of good people and lots of good squares.
Yeah.
And lots of good faces. All right.
Yep,
So
it's great.
get back to you.
All right, thank you, Rosemary. And yeah, it's good to see everyone. So let's get started with our regular first item of the week, and that is what's happening on the streets this week. So this is an opportunity for folks who do direct interaction with our unhoused neighbors to share what they're seeing in terms of changes in the community, changing needs, those kinds of things, putting the efforts that we're all 63 of us in this room are concerned about, helping those who are currently without housing. So for context, thankfully, we are seeing a little bit warmer weather. We still have been having overnight freezing temperatures, but it looks like that's about to end. Unfortunately, we're about to move into a period where it's going to get wet starting Sunday. So that's a little bit of the background context. Does anybody have anything to share from what they're seeing on the streets this week? And you can just raise your hand as Teresa did, or come off mute. Let's go ahead, Teresa.
So I'm pretty sure this is unintended consequence of the new camping ban and sweeps, but people I'm seeing them, especially on my street because I'm here at night. More and more people who were formerly here are coming onto the street, starting fires amongst the boulders, and some of them are lying down in awkward positions, but there's not room for tents. So I think one of the consequences of this new and pretty harsh approach has been that people are more apt to sleep without tents and more apt to be just gathering together when it's dark and they're less likely to be moved. Not what I think anyone was hoping for, but what, I Timothy said, I was with him a couple days ago, and he said, "Oh my gosh, if only someone had told the city that this wasn't a good idea." Anyway, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, Teresa. Bob, how are things on the peninsula?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We have 4 new unsheltered folks, 2 living in broken down cars down by the Purdy Bridge, 2 more underneath the Purdy Bridge, 3 that came through the Purdy Park and Ride a couple days ago. And then down on the KP, we're just seeing a significant rise, meaning probably 8 to 10 new folks living in, hopefully running RVs, but most of them are breaking down. And working with Pierce County Sheriff and the community, we're able to identify them, or at least get them contacted and services offered. The new folks are from Kitsap County. They're migrating down. We still do not see that many people, if ever, really coming over from across the Narrows Bridge. So it's a barrier that helps and hinders what we can do. But that's the update.
Thanks, Bob, for the update. Courtney?
Yeah, this is connected to what Teresa was saying. I was sick with COVID for a couple weeks and my car is still broke down, so I haven't been out as much, but I made it out recently. And people are desperate for tents. The impression I got was that it is directly connected to the sweeps around in the camping ban buffer zone, that their stuff is gone. And so everybody is in even more dire straits, more desperate situations. It's horrifying. And one of them had sores all over and said he was on antibiotics, but like, it was horrifying to look at him. So it's bad.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And it is getting bad. And unfortunately, a number of our leaders are celebrating while it continues to get worse. Jay.
So a couple of things. Bob, we are getting people in from Tacoma. It's just during the daytime, and then they travel out by bus at night. I've talked to a few of them. I'm usually on the buses later in the day on the last 2 or 3 buses, and that's when they're usually traveling out. I spoke to one of them the other day, and if we could possibly work on trying to get some signage for the bus stops out here with numbers to call, Bob, I'd like to work with you on that, because yeah, we're getting them. They're just only staying daytime and then heading back to Tacoma overnight. With sores and things, we are getting an uptick in fentanyl that is mixed with another drug that is causing excessive sores, wounds, diabetic kind of responses. So if you see someone like that, even if they are antibiotics, if you have medical supplies of any kind, they need gauze and they need ointment, not necessarily antibiotic ointment. They suggest just regular ointment. It's just to act as a barrier and so that the gauze doesn't actually stick to the wound. So if you could, one of the things we'll have to start stocking up on our needs supply lists are medical supplies, honestly, especially gauze and ointment. So I'm gonna add the need share list, and it has not been updated. I'm sorry, been dealing with life crises. It will be updated today to start reflecting what we need for summer intervention, but we are still maintaining winter because we are not out of our winter cycle yet. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jay. Norman.
Hi guys. Gosh, I'm hearing and seeing a lot more people desperate. Shelters are getting to where they're full. I'm seeing this pill called Blues, which is straight fentanyl, and $5 for 2 pills. And I'm telling you, it is a nightmare. I think Jay was talking about this drug called Trank, which is fentanyl mixed with another drug that makes your skin decay away. I mean, it's really getting desperate out there, but I just wanted to let you guys know yesterday we had Collaboration for a Cause in Puyallup. It's an event where we, it's more than a resource event. Boeing was there. We set a record with 275 people just walking through the event. I heard 3 people got housed. Lots of people got jobs. It's just that bright spot sometimes when there doesn't seem to be one. And again, I recognize I work for a city, but I don't think people are getting it. When we're doing sweeps, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? I mean, the truth of the matter is, yeah, you may have a win for a week and it's not even a win. It's just you cleared one area and displaced them to somewhere else. I mean, I preach that all the time, but please understand, God, it's tough. Residents are happy because they see this one area cleaned up. Again, where do they go? I mean, we need to keep advocating for sanctioned tent encampments where they have all of the necessary amenities that every human should have. I mean, I know I preach it here out loud and sometimes it falls on deaf ears, but please understand, when you're sweeping, all you're doing is displacing people to another area and spreading the problem. Our problem isn't a Fife problem. It's not a Tacoma problem. It's not a Puyallup problem. It's a Pierce County problem. So all I could say is just keep advocating for that. I would certainly say maybe tone it down so our leaders don't feel like they're being attacked, but we need to get them to listen. I know I'm trying to do my best over here in the city of Fife, but please understand, I can't say that we are responding any better than Tacoma is. So keep up the good work, guys. I love this organization, and what you're doing makes a difference, and people do listen to you.
Thank you, Norman. Thanks for bringing the passion and the reminder. Yeah, we need to be vocal and take every opportunity to encourage the city, well, all cities and the county to be stepping up their efforts for shelter and creating shelter that people are willing to use. Ed, I see you have your hand up. And Ed, if you're speaking, you're muted.
It's always good to have coffee before you start talking. One of the things that the city of Tacoma forgot to tell us about when they started the camping ban and what has happened since is 74 people have died on the street in that time frame. Just kind of a little statistic that I'm sure got overlooked by somebody, but there are 74 people that died within that time frame. And I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody, on the 26th of March, we have a homeless memorial scheduled for 5 o'clock at Shiloh Baptist Church. And we have 58 people that we will be remembering in that memorial service.
Thank you, Ed. Anyone else want to offer an update on what they're seeing on the streets before we move on? And I appreciate there's a lot of good conversation about wound packs and medical care in the chat. Keep it going. That's all going to be critical to help people as we encounter them around the county. Let's shift to our next topic, and I'm actually going to ask Evan to drop in here and give a short county council update, because we've got a big day coming up at the council meeting next week. So Evan,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Yeah, so we do have a lot on the agenda this upcoming Tuesday. It's March 21st, as a reminder. Probably don't need the reminder, but our meetings are at 3 p.m. I'll put some information in the chat just about how to access the meetings. If you would like to attend in person, we have some information about parking, how to access the building, that type of thing. If you are able to come virtually on the computer or over the phone, we'll have some instructions in there as well. But yeah, like Rob mentioned, we'll be voting, the council will be voting on the 0.1% ordinance that we brought forward back in December that's been carried forward. So we will, that will be up for final consideration. A big thing that we do need support on right now is both positive, supportive, comments coming in via email. We are currently, outnumbered with negative comments coming into council versus positive ones. Also, in a similar vein, are hoping that folks are able to show up and testify day of, whether that's in person or virtually. And so I will put some information in the chat about how to do that. But this has been a long process. We've gotten a lot of really positive community feedback. I think the case is clear for why this is needed. I don't have to tell you all that. But what we would really need some support on right now is just, again, really trying to fill the room, fill council members' inboxes as much as possible. So I'll include some information in the chat on that there, but it'll be a long meeting. Community First Village is on the agenda as well. So we're anticipating it being an exceptionally long meeting. I will say, just for logistics info, if you are interested in and available, consideration of the 0.1% will be the first thing on the agenda. So that will be up for consideration and for public comment probably within the first 20 minutes after 3 p.m. So that's just a little logistics note there. And again, that's next Tuesday, March 21st. Rob, I'm not sure if it's appropriate if people have questions. I'm happy to answer them. I see hands up. I'll put my email in the chat as well in case anyone would like to get in touch after the meeting. But happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Okay, yeah, let's get started. I see Richard, your hand's up first.
Yeah, Evan, what is the gist of the negative comments that you're receiving? It's a good
question.
Yeah.
So specific to the 0.1%, I mean, it's kind of what we see often, right? It's I would say the top line is that county government already has millions of dollars to spend. Government is not spending the money properly. Why should we be supportive of an additional sales tax increase? So it is kind of coming down to a pretty standard sort of anti-tax argument. What we're trying to lead with, it's a 0.1% tax. So the language that we're trying to use to talk about it is, it's an additional penny on a $10 purchase, right? Trying to contextualize it for folks. So for folks that are emailing in, that is helpful to kind of talk about it in those terms. And the documents that I'll send in the chat, we have some suggested talking points. That's more for a broader audience. I think everyone here, probably has, a whole list of talking points that you could send over pretty easily. So please feel free to do that. But just know that there are some of those suggestions in there as well. But I would say that that's predominantly what we are receiving on the 1/10 is an anti-tax argument. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Todd? Oh, and you're muted, Todd.
Yes, Richard had my question, so thank you, Richard, for asking that. But Evan, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Do you have a general sense of how things, this 0.1% of 1% may go next week?
Yeah, so it's a little bit. I will say so. Yeah, yes and no. I guess is the short answer. This has been something that. So we do need 5 affirmative votes to pass the sales tax. That's different than most of the things that the council needs to pass. So, traditionally, if this was just a 4-vote matter, we wouldn't have any concerns, right? All 4 Democrats are supportive. So we do need one of our Republican council members to vote affirmatively. So that has been where the I would say the crux of the sort of negotiations have been ongoing. The Community First Village is sort of tied up in this, right? So there's a lot of there's been a lot of long kind of negotiation meetings. But I would say my gut as of now with where everything's at, still a long way until Tuesday, even if it's only a couple of days away. But we're expecting this to pass. We've been working really closely with Councilmember Morrell on the 110th, and he's been really engaged.
Is Mr. Morrell one of the Republicans?
Yes, yeah, he is.
But he's also a good man, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So he's really been engaged in good faith, which I think gives us a lot of confidence that barring some sort of curveball, which unfortunately I think for kind of how just how complicated all of this is, and everything that's going to be on the agenda for Tuesday, I think is still a possibility. But I think everything we've been seeing and working with so far this week and the last couple of weeks have indicated, I think, a positive.
So last question real quick, Evan. Yeah. What are the main arguments against this from the councilors that are opposed? Do they track according to your opening statements that government should be able to afford this already, or do the Republicans on the other side have different arguments against it?
I think I do think that's a big part of it. Frankly speaking, I think for somebody like Councilmember Morrell, he will take a hit from his base on if he is supportive of this. So I do think that is definitely something that's on the minds of our Republican colleagues on council. It's been interesting because there haven't been a lot of forums where the Republican council members have been on the record talking about where they're at on it, right? So we did have this brought up briefly in December. It was sort of clear at that point that we didn't have the votes that we needed, and so the decision was to kind of continue it on to March of this year. So there just really haven't been that many opportunities for the Republicans to kind of be on the record and talking about some of their concerns. Most of what we've heard in that regard has come from our meetings with Councilmember Morrell, who again has to his credit been engaged and active in trying to come to a solution and be supportive there. So hopefully that's helpful context.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for dropping in this morning, Evan. And if you can drop some of those key
of course,
points in the chat, that would be awesome. Yeah. And if folks have the capacity to go and attend either on Zoom and comment or in person in council chambers Tuesday, that would be kindly get this resource passed in Pierce County.
Yeah. Oh, and just one quick note, sorry, Rob. We are expecting a kind of an overwhelming amount of, which is good, right? But a lot of people, both in person and online. What that typically means, so typically folks have 3 minutes for testimony before council. It will likely be limited to potentially 90 seconds, a minute and a half, something like that. So just keep in mind, a normal Pierce County Council meeting is there's 3 minutes, but just due to the volume, that will probably be limited. So if you're thinking through talking points, things like that, maybe have 2 versions of what you'd like to say, just as a final recommendation there. Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and put that information in now. Thanks, Rob.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move to our community spotlight for today. And I think Verna, you were going to introduce this.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So we have Rhonda Cochran with us from the Tacoma Pierce County Nurse Family Partnership. Jan Renbeck wanted to invite her to come talk with us. So one of the things she does is working with at-risk pregnancies, which definitely has an application with the homeless population. And I'll be monitoring chat if anybody has questions. So I'll report that back to you, Rhonda.
Oh, Rhonda, you're muted.
Sure enough. Thank you. I have had coffee and it still didn't help. And I had some slides today to share and it looks like I'm not able to share. So I will just.
I can fix that for you. So
Can
just
you?
give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me make you a co-host and you should have that ability to share slides now.
Sure enough. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. My name is Rhonda Crooker and I work for the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department and I am a nurse in the Nurse Family Partnership Program. And so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what Nurse Family Partnership is. And yeah, thank you for inviting me to join your meeting today. Nurse Family Partnership is an evidence-based community health program with 45 years of research, showing significant improvements in the health and lives of first-time parents and their children affected by social and economic inequality. The program partners specially educated nurses with pregnant people, and regular visits start early in pregnancy and continue until the child's second birthday. Research has consistently shown that the partnership between a nurse and the parent is a winning combination that makes a measurable long-term difference for the whole family. Parents enrolled in the Nurse Family Partnership Program benefit by getting the care and support they need in order to have a healthy pregnancy. At the same time, families develop close relationship with the nurse who becomes a trusted resource they can rely on for support and advice. NFP is completely free for eligible families. Nurse Family Partnership has 3 goals. The first one is to improve pregnancy outcomes by partnering with pregnant people to encourage engagement in good preventive health practices, including prenatal care, improving nutrition, and reducing the use of habit-forming substances. The second goal is to improve child health and development by assisting families to provide responsible and competent care for their children. And the third goal is to improve the economic self-sufficiency of the family by supporting parents to develop a vision for their own future by planning additional pregnancies, continuing their education, and finding work. So these are some of the outcomes of Nurse Family Partnership based on the research. We're seeing lower rates of child abuse and neglect for those who participate, fewer ER visits for accidents and poisonings, fewer behavioral and intellectual problems, fewer justice system convictions, and a big increase in gainful employment. Dr. David Olds, who is the founder of Nurse Family Partnership, says there is a magic window during pregnancy, a time when the desire to be a good mother and raise a healthy, happy child creates motivation to overcome incredible obstacles, including poverty, with the help of a well-educated nurse. When parents take the courageous steps to make small changes in their lives, it translates to big changes down the road with the potential to change the trajectory of generations to follow. Nurse Family Partnership has a motto, only a small change is necessary. I like to think of it as planting seeds. Some seeds germinate right away and grow quickly. Others take longer to germinate and grow, and still others may not germinate at all. As an NFP nurse, sometimes I get the privilege of seeing changes happen in real time. Sometimes I don't get to see the big changes I might wish for. One thing I am pretty sure of, relationships are the context in which most developmental changes happen for people. Nurse Family Partnership is a relationship-based intervention and therefore is fertile soil for seeds to germinate and grow. Participants in Nurse Family Partnership participate in weekly visits or every other week visits on average. Sometimes we meet with them more frequently, sometimes less frequently, depending on the family's need. We can meet folks in their home or somewhere in the community. So I've met clients at coffee shops and restaurants and WIC offices and clinics and libraries. So we're pretty flexible. Virtual visits are also an option at this point, so by telephone or video conference, though we're not sure how long that will continue to be true as the pandemic winds down. So you can help by making referrals. In order to qualify, folks must be pregnant with their first baby, and they must enroll by the end of their 28th week of pregnancy, and they must be experiencing economic inequality. So if they qualify for WIC or Medicaid, then they qualify for Nurse Family Partnership. You can make a referral by going to the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department website or by calling our intake number, and I can post both of those in the chat for you. So I'm seeing, it looks like there's a question, do we have posters or flyers? Yes, we do.
And there was another question about enrolling walk-in. Let me see if I can get back to it. Flyers or posters that we could share with our walk-in clients and shelter residents. You have any comments for that?
Yes, we do. We have flyers, posters, and we have pamphlets that we can give out. So yes, definitely. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. So if that's something, we can connect and figure that out, how to get that to you.
Rhonda, do you have any other slides you need to share, or can I end the slide share?
Oh, you can end the slide share. I can stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Jenny
Okay,
Sheppy
perfect.
says, Rhonda, I can also help you get flyers out to shelter folks. I've got contact info for Dr. Jarvie and others.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. And then I think I saw a question about what if they don't qualify for Medicaid due to immigration status. So if economically they would qualify for Medicaid or WIC, regardless, like if they didn't have immigration issues, then all that matters is that they are low income, that they would qualify if immigration wasn't an issue. So yes, they would qualify.
And I see Teresa has her hand up.
Thanks, Rhonda. It's pretty amazing stuff. It's going off of what basically we know, and I'm glad it's being funded. I have a question about, there was years ago, somebody from your group worked with a woman who was in the mother-baby unit of the prison and followed up when she came out to live in our house, and it was really amazing. So I wonder if you still do anything with women who are incarcerated?
We can if we get referrals. Absolutely.
So even in the jail?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I will try to connect some folks.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
And Dr. Jarvie.
Hey, Rhonda, I have a question. You mentioned that they have to be on their first pregnancy.
Yes.
And so what about somebody, and I'm asking this because we've had this a couple of times in the past year, where we have a client, a woman who's on their second child, but the first one wasn't very good experience because they ended up homeless, or they are homeless and unhealthy, possible, drug issues. So what about those women who are on there? And sometimes some of them are, a couple of them had a very young infant, like a baby, still holding in their arms, and they're pregnant again. Mm-hmm. And so I feel that they would need this service, but they wouldn't qualify for you guys.
Exactly. So unfortunately, I don't make the rules. And the reason why this program targets first-time parents is because the idea is that we want to start them out on the right foot so that subsequent children, that's the idea behind it. When they have subsequent children, then they already have this under their belt. I completely hear what you're saying. And I absolutely feel like in some communities, it has been, we have been able to serve people who have more than one child. In our community, it has to be first-time parents. So they can have been pregnant before, but they cannot have ever had a live birth before. So if they've lost a pregnancy before or had a miscarriage, they can still qualify.
And Richard Dorset put in a question about his understanding was that previously we only did referrals. And so he was asking, is this a new program?
I don't know how long this program has been in Pierce County. I can tell you this program has been around nationwide since the 1970s. So it's been in Pierce for a while. I don't know for sure how long.
Rhonda, this is Jenny. Can I just jump in? I think what Richard's referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but is when Sharon and Robin came this summer to speak. I had let Isaiah and I let you know that. Remember, we were talking about how they came to talk about maternal child outreach team. So I think what Richard's referring to is they came and spoke about sort of the team that makes referrals to all the different programs, including NFP. So NFP has been around, as you said, for a long time. It's been in Pierce County, and the women who came from the health department to speak about this summer mentioned NFP just briefly as one of the programs that we can make connections with folks to. So Richard, I hope that clears it up. Rhonda's not talking about something different. She's expanding on one of the programs that we at the health department can connect folks with. And he's been connected with the health department for many years.
Yeah, it's helpful, but very confusing. It is very confusing. We're putting a couple on the train on Monday, a pregnant couple to go back. So that's kind of a diversion thing. But it's a mishmash of what to do with these pregnant women that I run into quite often out there. And I'm not sure what I'm suggesting, but a little bit of coordination would go a long ways, because we have Greater Lakes has some good outreach that they do. You do some referrals, which is not really that helpful to me. CCS does some direct stuff. So there's a lot of pieces to this out there, and a lot of pregnant women, but it's like everything else. It's a cluster of pieces that makes it very difficult when you've got somebody that's 5 months pregnant that's not getting prenatal. So anyway, it seems like some additional work could be used. Thank you.
And I see Jessica has her hand up.
Hey, so I'm just curious, and I know you might not have the answer to this, but is the health department working on anything as far as to stop people from getting pregnant, handing out contraceptive, doing like we've been talking about doing some birth control in the field, like Nexplanon and things like that. So we're kind of working on that, but realistically, we need to kind of hit this in the beginning. I would say 90% of the ladies that I am coming across that are pregnant are pregnant accidentally, like they weren't planning to be pregnant. And with COVID, DSHS and Planned Parenthood wasn't open for you to walk in and just grab contraceptives. So there's a lot more pregnant people in the field now than I've ever seen before. And so I'm just curious about that.
to that? Jenny, do you know?
Go ahead.
Hey, sorry, I had trouble getting off mute. I can't speak to what for example, our STD group is doing with safe sex outreach, contraceptives, etc. I can definitely follow up. Leah Ford is also on. We don't have anyone from our STD team, which is housed within communicable disease here at the moment. I saw Leah Ford put something in the chat, so perhaps, I don't want to put her on the spot, but perhaps she can speak to this. If not, we can follow up. Local health jurisdictions do very little like direct service, right? So we obviously do outreach, but you all do, so much more than we do, that our reach is definitely limited. But I'll see if Leah or anyone else from the health department is on that can answer that, and then we can follow up.
Yeah, no, Jenny, I don't really have anything else to add. I would say there are a number of ways that outreach is happening. For example, in schools, like all of the NFP nurses are connected to a local school in Pierce County, and so those nurses are visiting there. We have certain aspects of the health department that do offer direct service, but we do attempt to have that offered by community. And so we connect with like PCAF and like you mentioned, Planned Parenthood. And if you have ideas of other organizations we should be connecting with that, can meet that need in a better way, we're happy to have those discussions. And so definitely reach out.
Great. And I see, Jay, you have your hand up, and then we probably need to move on to our next item. But Jay, go ahead.
We reached out to Planned Parenthood to see if we can make an agreement to work on this as an issue by chance. I don't mind doing it myself, but I don't know if anybody else has. Answering that in the chat is fine. We can continue onward. It's just an idea. We can hash it out in the chat.
Yeah, I think that's great. I know they have a new clinic manager because the old one now works at the health department. And so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But Jay, definitely looking forward to connecting with you and discussing this in more detail.
Awesome. All right. So thank you, Rhonda and Verna, for setting this up and sharing. Obviously, there is a lot of interest and a lot of need in the community. So connecting folks to this service is critical. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah. All right. So as usual, we are running behind on our agenda. So let's shift to our next item, which is kind of an interesting one. It's going to be a panel conversation about using creativity and art and homelessness to create community. So I've got 4 folks listed as participating in this part of a kind of online panel conversation. And I think the order was, and maybe Teresa can correct me if I'm wrong, the order was going to be Timothy, and then Richard, and then Jay, and then we'll go to Keegan. Is that correct?
I thought it was Keegan going first, but I don't know if he cares, and I don't know if anybody else cares. So if that's the way you've got it, you go for it.
Actually, what works best for you, Keegan?
I'm good with either.
Okay. Well, we kind of pulled this together because of the conversation with you. And unfortunately, I wasn't here for that conversation. So why don't we go ahead and just get started with you, and then we'll bring in the other folks. And do you have slides that you need to share?
Yes, yeah, I have a short presentation.
Okay, great. Let me give you that ability, and we will be on our way. All right, you should be able to do that now.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, thanks again for having sorry. Didn't think I was too nervous, but just set in like really quickly. Thanks for having me, everybody. My name is Keegan Ross. I'm an MPA candidate at Evergreen State College, which is how I got connected with the group through Larry Sequist's strategic planning class. I'm also in my spare time, well, for work, I'm a manager at the Grand Cinema, which you'll kind of see is how this sort of came together. I don't have any experience personally with homelessness, but as I'll get into my presentation in just a moment, from some the nonprofit work I've done with United Way of King County, and in the legislature, just some casework, just kind of at different points I've kind of looked at how to connect these different experiences, looking at how it can be important to have sort of an understanding of the resources available to people, just even if you're not actively working in homelessness prevention. So I'll go ahead and start my slideshow. And this is the slightly catchier title I came up with from before. And
we're not seeing your slideshow yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I think I had one moment. Sorry about that. Just a moment.
No problem. There, it's coming. Yep, we're seeing that now. But you muted yourself somehow.
Keegan, we're not hearing you now, but we're seeing your slideshow.
If he's on a Chromebook, he can't do both at the same time. There's something wrong with that interference, and I don't know what it is. It's not only that it's on cheaper laptops too, but there's an interference between Chrome when it comes to Zoom. And if you're doing a presentation, it will cut your sound. So he has one or the other.
Oh,
so Keegan, if I also have a link to that presentation that you emailed me last night, I could share it if that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay. Let me bring it up real quick and we'll get that going. All right. Hopefully folks are seeing that.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, Keegan.
Okay. So this is the title I'm working off of for now. Still open to trying to make it even catchier. Next slide, please. And so kind of trying to boil down the problem as simply as I can, kind of looking at in sort of my introduction I was mentioning, obviously, as this group knows that just solving homelessness is costly and takes time. And so with this, this proposal, this presentation, I'm kind of looking at how, while the comprehensive plan to solve homelessness and everything, like in that time, like how do we keep people safe with the threats of sweeps and violence and just everything that we're all too aware of, and then also how do you alleviate, how can we help alleviate the stress and the mental health toll associated, but then also, like I said, just speaking as somebody, like again, not currently working directly in social services, working in like a business, how do we look at kind of preventing a lot of the fear and distrust and ostracization, I think that can happen, just kind of knowing, like I said, working at a business downtown, just different people we get to know. I see them day to day and try to get to know people, but it's definitely something I've worked on since being there, especially seeing like a customer come in, they have like certain uncertainty, and I'll try and advocate on their behalf as best I can, but that's kind of what this is trying to look at as well. Next slide, please. And
is that still working?
yeah, it says loading on my end.
Oh, yeah, let me go back. Let me escape. We'll just go back to this view.
Okay. And so one, and I'm sorry, I forgot to time myself because I want to make sure I keep this brief. So the kind of framework that I want to build this off of is using the Tacoma Creates funding. And so it's as you might know, it's a 2018 voter approved initiative. This year it's funding 58 or helping to fund 58 organizations around Tacoma, and specifically looking at aiming increasing access and equity in our community. And so then on the left is some pictures of some Tacoma Creates organizations, and on the right is a map with the darker purple reflecting where there's more inequity in Tacoma. Next slide, please. And so then at the Grand, with that funding, we've basically, if you have an APT card or a student, or you're a student and you live in Tacoma, basically you can see 99% of the movies for free. You just present them, you get in. And so I have a couple stories here. And I think, especially on the left, it just kind of really, or I guess in both cases, really, it kind of speaks to, I think it's easy to sort of take stuff like that as, or just, speaking as myself, kind of take movies as like a luxury, like not sort of necessarily seeing all of the benefits beyond entertainment that can kind of come with it. And so I think it's really kind of powerful to look at how important it is to try and see where we can help make these things more available. Next slide, please. And so that's kind of the opportunity I'm looking at, is how we can use initiatives like this to kind of further remove financial barriers, and then also look at, if Tacoma Creates could be a good framework for other cities. It's low cost to organizations. I think recognizes, like I said, the importance of having these available, not just in hard times, but maybe even especially in hard times, looking at the kind of stress relief benefits that, studies have shown. Next slide, please. Sorry, and I'll try and just go a little bit quicker here to be respectful of everybody's time. So like I said, some of the benefits we're seeing is just kind of the sense of normalcy and therapeutic benefits that it gives. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the challenges and questions I'm kind of working through in kind of looking at that I think as some of these partnerships develop, I think some of the kind of open questions in developing the programming is, looking at how do we advocate on behalf of these neighbors while not being naive about struggles, just looking at messaging and equity. Next slide. And so I think, sorry. Excuse me. Hesitate on the word screener on the second bullet there, because not wanting to look at screening people out, but essentially as we increase these programs, looking at like, if there's language barriers, whatever the case may be, just kind of looking at like, okay, like this might be a great match, things like that. But then if there are like extreme circumstances, just look at also like meeting people where they're at, creating opportunities at service sites as well. But wherever possible, the idea is like inviting people like into the communities, not having like that separation necessarily. Next slide, please. And so then the short-term program goals I'm looking at is to connect with the major social service providers in the area, looking to survey community interests, not wanting to make assumptions, of course, about and looking at the best means of delivery. Next slide, please. And then long-term, I'm thinking, 10 new free programs such as this would be a good goal, moving from looking at make sure these are available at least monthly to weekly to daily, or having something available each day of the week. And then as well as looking at how this funding can help provide for appropriate training for the art staff. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Keegan. So any quick questions? And I'm going to stop the screen share so we can all see you. Norman.
I've been asked to buy art supplies for several of my participants. When you say programs, are you suggesting when you go out and do outreach to provide art supplies? Or are you saying to integrate art creativity within your programs yourself? Because as a person that manages grants, there's numerous times I have to argue with someone to justify that expense of buying art supplies. I mean, it literally goes like this. This is not necessary and it certainly should be done. And then I go into, well, it is therapeutic case management. We're reaching a person on another level. We're diverting their interest into art versus other negative behaviors, but it is not easy to get that funded and to have to explain those answers to our people that give us money. Couple things there. Sorry about that, Keegan.
No problem. That's a good question. Yeah, I guess I use the word program kind of broadly. Just yeah, like I said, in my own case, just it's an opportunity to see movies for free, but then just thinking where that'll look different depending on the organization, just whatever they're either comfortable offering, able to offer, whatever they're kind of like maybe daily I haven't connected to the organization, so I want to come with an example, but thinking like I guess where I use the example of the museum, like knowing there's like already probably some redundancies, and so looking at how we can expand on that, looking at like so counting maybe like certain days at the museum basically would be similar also, but then other ones, I guess, throwing out like I don't know, like at the I'm trying to think if it'd be like arts and crafts or something more like that, something more involved, more hands-on. I guess I wanted to keep it broad, but then yeah, that's a good point as far as for like grants, might have to get more specific.
All right. Would you be have you had programs set up in Pierce County where I could take some of my people to an event like that just to see how it goes before I invest heavily in doing something like this? And I'll stop talking.
So I would have to, I guess, look at how some of the other Tacoma creates like organizations have kind of used like that funding to remove like the financial barrier. Like I said, I'm just kind of working off of like how the grant has done it, and just sort of broadly, like if you have a student ID or an EBT card and a Tacoma address, then you can come see movies for free. I'm not sure how other organizations have done it. I think it's also kept pretty broad for the organizations as well. There's a lot of leeway.
All right, so that is a good segue into some of the outreach regarding creativity and art that Timothy and Richard and Jay were going to speak about. So Richard, I think directly you've talked about getting art supplies out to people. You want to talk for a couple minutes about that?
Yeah. Yes. I'll be quick. If you could put that first photograph up.
Oh yeah.
Teresa a few weeks brought a pack of art supplies, and they went out. They were so welcome. So we've been collecting, and Rob's going to put up a sample of what we've got. We put them in gallon Ziploc bags so we can put note paper, drawing paper, colored pens and pencils, One man has been bringing me postcards with first-class stamps on it so that if people want to write home, we can do that. One young man came up, he said he used to be a songwriter and now he can write his lyrics down again. We've got people that are doing adult graphics, drawing. And so when we set these up on the table with the food, they are very, very popular. And what's kind of cool about it is the drawing and supplies have nothing to do with homelessness. Unlike blankets or water or hand warmers, which are about helping keeping people comfortable, people enjoy art, they enjoy writing, they enjoy drawing, and that's part of what we provide. It strikes me that the art comes from two perspectives. Is there's art about the homeless world. So Melinda Raybon's film, for example, or sketches of homeless people. But what I'm particularly interested in is art coming from people that are living homeless. And that's what's really interesting and what's these packets are making available. The other thing that's got my attention, if you could put the second slide, Rob, is running into some of the bureaucracy of art. We just went and did it. So during the Memorial Day, Ryan Booker prepared 167 of these miniature tents, each having the name and age of a person that died in the streets in these last year. And we put these out on, we're down in Ruston Way, and we'll be doing another installation of these soon to, again, highlight and message what is going on in the world out there. And then art comes in different ways. If you'd put the third one up, Rob, the mother of invention is creativity. So this palette showed up on a site that was mimicking an American flag. And what's really interesting to me is when the homeless world is messaging to the non-homeless world. So here we have a flag with the message "Divided we fell," and then down below somebody fail. Divided we fail. And that's a beautiful piece of street art that I was only able to capture the photo of, but that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing out there that is really the most interesting of art emanating from the street. So that's what I'm looking to find. We find poetry, we find drawings, we find fragments of things, and it's and collect it or photograph it when we can. So anyway, that's part of what we're doing out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Richard. And how about you, Timothy?
Sure. So Teresa called me yesterday and said that we would be talking about culture on the call today and asked me to do just a little update about where Dignity City is at and how it might relate to the various things under discussion. Longtime Dignity City watchers have probably noticed that there hasn't been much to watch since last April or so. I moved to Tacoma to start a new sort of a street paper about 1.5 years ago, and got up a good head of steam in terms of creating the infrastructure for the thing and putting up communications infrastructure and starting to do some reporting. And I came up against some other work that I needed to focus on to be ready to really launch this project. And I'm basically at that point yet, at that point. And frankly, some of that work that I needed to do was engagement with this community. And I actually feel like all of that time has been really well spent in getting to know some of the folks on this call and really becoming part of this community myself as I'm working to launch this project. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about where I'm at on this call. So I'm reactivating the project. You're going to see more life out of the website, and I'm just going to talk briefly about what this project looks like. It's a street paper. It's a new kind of a street paper. Most of you know that I've been doing homeless organizing and street paper type stuff since really the late 80s. I founded Real Change in Seattle in '94. And I'm working on building a new sort of a street paper model that is a decentralized street paper network with lots of kind of little distributor nodes. Think of me as like a sort of a street paper network dealer kingpin, and I've got all these like minor dealers out in the community that know 3 or 4 or 5 people that need street papers, and I help get those papers to the people out there in community that want to get street papers to people to sell. And I centralize what needs to be centralized and decentralize what can be decentralized. And I've got a bunch of friends in the community who are connected to networks of homeless folks, and we're a big network. And we're doing this street paper, and we're doing the cultural work associated with it together. And we're creating this kind of public communications infrastructure for engagement. It's a radical new model for a street paper that nobody's done. And, you know, I plan on making you all either willing or unwilling participants in this grand experiment. And that's where things are at right now. I've been talking to folks in the community. People are excited about the idea, and I'm ready to put this baby into gear and start flying this plane while we're building it. So I'll just stop there, and any questions I'm happy to answer. And, you know, one of the people that I'm really excited to be working with, I'll just say this to sort of set up the next speaker, is Jay fucking Worley, man. She's personifies everything that I want this paper to be about in terms of being grounded in the community and saying what shit needs to be said. So that's my handoff to you, Jay.
Yeah, Jay fucking Worley, you want to talk?
Hey, I've been called much worse things. Hi, everybody. My name's Jay, and all of you have heard from me at least a few times by now. I would like to start a project aimed at making those kits for the homeless and work on integrating it into a shelter for our off hours that works as a storefront during our day hours and a distribution center. I think it would be a great point to work with the cinemas. I want to tell you something. I haven't seen the movie more than 3 times in the last 15 years because I am poor. Movies are super, super special. The last one I went to was Wolverine with my son because we got a gift card from his school for a Christmas present. So there are those of us that entertainment is just impossible. The quality of life of individuals who are homeless greatly depends on things like crafting, things like just being able to color something, just being able to paint something, just be able to do something. So I'm going to show you some of the crafts that I would like to do. This is a bookmark. It takes 15 to 20 minutes to make at the most. It is easy to put into like a makeup bag and can be put together very simply, not a lot of pieces to lose. And we could pay somebody $5 to $10 to make one of these immediately. And then they would either take the whole amount of the money, or they would take a portion of the money and a new craft bag so that they could create a new item. Their first like 5 craft bags are going to be free because, you know, we all got to start somewhere, right? Another thing that we can do is, so Monique, this one's for you. This is a sun catcher. I really wish I could have shown you guys this like 20 minutes ago. It's really shiny. That is going to be in the auction for FOB. Each one of these, though, is a little sphere that somebody could make out of a craft bag that we create, that they could get $5 to $10 for, that takes 5 to 10 minutes, that takes pennies to create the bag itself. I have no problem putting instructions that are easy to read or making up time to come to the cinema and teach people how to do these crafts. That's kind of what I'm hoping to start doing, is just integrating ways that people can start feeling better about themselves. My crafts saved my life. There was a time where I made 10 necklaces and went and commissioned them to local stores in Kent and got $150 for Christmas. And that bought us our food and got gifts for my kids and made our holiday. So these crafts are incredibly important. Paper bookmarks out of a giant book that you use for scrapbooking can be made in 15 to 10 minutes. Pennies to cost. A little tassel on the bottom of this, yet again, $5 to $10 to them. We sell it $5 to $10, trade in for new crafts. Tiny, tiny things. Does not require a lot of space, does not require a lot of things to carry. They can have more than 5 of them on them, and they can just do them over a time period. And the confidence that you get, well, if I can do this and I can make money, then I can do more. And then if they have pocket crafts and a newspaper, they're drawing that person to them for the news, and they can be like, I also have this if you're interested. The biggest thing with this is letting them build up that confidence, giving them the little bit of money. They can save enough for a business license, and we can get people off of SSI. We can get people off the street. We can get people into a new frame of life. After learning how to do something new, you're willing to teach yourself just about anything. I know ceramics. I know how to do basket weaving. I know how to sew. I am been crafting my entire life. There's no reason we can't support our community this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Keegan and everyone else, thank you for bringing this topic up and talking about this morning. I'm hoping it can inspire some good conversation in our breakouts that we'll do here after we get past the government updates. So Keegan, any closing words you want to say before we move on?
No, just thanks again for having me and bearing with my technical difficulties.
No problem. All right, so let's shift over briefly to our government partners, and then we'll come back to a breakout. Let's get started with, I think I saw Matthew from the city of Tacoma on the call.
Morning, everyone. I have to follow JF and Morley. Come on. Pardon my voice, getting over this nasty cold. So as many of you know, Caleb and Allison presented a study session this week for City Council. And as many of you know, some of the council members expressed interest in extending some of the projects that were slated to be decommissioned or transitioned this year, which is exciting. So now it's a matter of finding the funding to extend those programs and those projects. And then additionally, Caleb will be providing an update to the coalition on the strategy in May. And then we're also planning for heat, smoke, inclement weather this summer in partnership with Pierce County. And additionally, let's see what else I have. So we're looking to have safe parking online, hopefully next month. It looks like CCS is staffed up and should be ready to go in April. And then as far as I know, there are no large encampment cleanups or sweeps that are currently scheduled. And I'm happy to take any of your questions and answer them the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So I am dropping in the chat some notes that I took that include screenshots of all the slides from the presentation on Tuesday. And I tried to, it also includes just some of the things I captured that city council members said. Encourage folks to take a look. I tried to be, to not editorialize too much as I went through that content, but there probably are a few little things in there. I haven't actually looked at it since Tuesday. So, thank you, Matthew. It's good news to hear that some of the shelter sites may be extended if the funding is found. I know that funding is a major cliff that's hanging out there right now. And, but the one thing I did want to mention, and I sent this comment to the mayor during that study session, is that I'm hoping the city's paying close attention to the fact that only 11% of folks who have been in the sweep contacted in the sweep areas have moved into shelter. And it also that the shelter sites that are currently expected to wind down this year are the shelter sites that are always full, that people who are currently homeless want to move into, and taking those resources off the list is going to drive that 11% number down considerably, along with just not having as many shelter sites available. So I'll stop there, but thank you for being here, Matthew. And Teresa, I see you have your hand up.
So first, I'm really happy to hear about the reconsideration, and especially in light of at the State of the City address last night, the mayor really highlighted forward operating base hope. And I thought, oh my God, telling stories about the successes there, while with the other hand, talking about shutting it down is just not logical. So I just want to put my 2 bits in there, and I think I speak for a lot of folks here, that we need those places that have been set up to stay up. And we really appreciate it if you come to us and talk to us about what your strategy is and how we can help to make that happen. The other thing you just mentioned that gave me a ray of hope was that you don't have any sweeps scheduled, and I'm speaking specifically about the Union Street Loop, which I heard was mentioned in the study session as that's our next sweep. Has that changed?
So I don't have any more details on that. It has not been scheduled, but I did hear that being mentioned as well. But we will let folks know if that is scheduled.
That would be a pretty horrible thing to do, given that everyone from the Street of Dreams just got driven down there, and you really don't have another place to tell them to go. So I really want to say that it is it's not acceptable to keep sweeping people in this way without another place for them to go.
Thank you, Teresa. And Matthew, I don't know if you can see the chat, but I see Kenneth posted a question in there that maybe you can address in the chat.
So
all right, let's shift over.
Sorry, I'll
go ahead.
Chat, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Let's shift over to see if we have any updates from Pierce County Human Services. I didn't see Jeff on the call, so we may not have anyone here from Pierce County Human Services today. How about folks from the health department?
Hey, everybody. Good morning. It's Jenny from TPCHD. Happy to be here with you as always. It's a highlight of my week. I'm just going to share a few things. The CDC has deployed some COVID testing kiosks, which are pretty cool. They're open 24/7. So this is a kiosk where you can get a test and then swab and put the swab in the kiosk and get your results by email, text, or call. I'll drop some of the addresses in the chat, but there's one in Spanaway right now, and then 2 more coming in Spanaway and over in Browns Point. And then we will be also getting one at the D Street location of TPCHD in the coming days, weeks, I'm not sure. I do have a flyer I can share out. I don't have it at my fingertips right now, but I can share that out if folks want to learn more about that. The Opioid Summit is next Thursday, March 23rd, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's at Puyallup Park Pavilion. It's there's also an online option if you can't make it in person, and that is a free event. And I did want to let folks know about an infection that we're seeing in the community called shigellosis. If you receive our Tacoma Pierce County Health Department health advisories, you may have recently seen this, or you've seen it in the news this week. So just to give a quick kind of summary about this, this is not a new thing, but shigellosis is an acute intestinal infection caused by a bacteria called Shigella, and it's one of the major causes of bacterial diarrhea in the U.S. It's really infectious, so it only takes a small amount to get sick, and so that means it can spread easily from person to person. Risk factors, it tends to be more common in young, little folks, younger than 5 years old, but also in folks who have oral, anal sexual contact, are unhoused, live with HIV or with other immunocompromised conditions. So there are some folks who are more susceptible due to living conditions or underlying medical conditions. So it's typically really mild and self-limiting. So that means it just goes away on its own without intervention. But it can be more serious and and require treatment with antibiotics. So causes diarrhea, fever, pain. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that we are seeing an increase in cases here in Pierce County, which isn't surprising because King County has had cases. And so we tend to see that pattern. And we have about a third of the cases where we were able to identify this. We have a third of the cases in people who are either living homeless or are associated with folks who are homeless, so perhaps service providers. And the CDC is also monitoring an increase in cases that are drug resistant. So when a bacteria is drug resistant, it just means it's harder to treat with common antibiotics. So this is obviously concerning. We do not, to be clear, we do not have any drug resistant cases here, but it is something that's being monitored nationally. So to protect yourself and others, similar to with other infections, we talk about washing hands with soap and water. Hand sanitizer can also be used against this bacteria as long as the hands aren't visibly soiled. I've been talking to shelters about increasing, disinfecting frequently used spaces, doorknobs, tables, things like that, using PPE like masks when cleaning, sanitizing, kind of the things you hear me talk about a lot, encouraging folks to seek medical care if they're really sick, avoiding allowing folks who have symptoms of vomiting or diarrhea to assist with food services, things like that. A lot of these talking points are geared towards my shelter providers or folks who are working with unhoused clients or guests directly or in, a congregate or other setting. So yeah, exciting stuff. Just want you to be aware. And as always, I will keep, we're just monitoring the situation, and I'll keep folks updated if there's anything else that I would, need you to know about this. If you have questions, again, I'm communicating directly with shelters about this stuff, with street outreach teams as well. And just want to let you all know. And if you have questions, please let me know.
It looks like Jeffrey has his hand up.
Hey, Jeffrey.
How you doing, Jenny?
I'm good.
What's the status on the syphilis outbreak?
Yeah, the status is, I don't think I have a status update on. I just muted myself. I'm sorry. I don't have an updated status on it since last I shared. So we have cases in the 20, 30, you know what? Don't quote me. I'm going to try to dig for the information here, and I can maybe share something in the chat. I can also check in with my STD colleagues and see, but as of earlier this week, I asked actually for an update on that, if there was anything new to share, and they said that there wasn't. So it's an ongoing concern. Folks should call the health department, get in touch with me if you have questions about folks you come into contact with who may need treatment. Try to encourage them to go to one of the free clinics, or if they have insurance, go, or they have a medical provider, see a medical provider. So yeah, it's concerning, but there's nothing new that I can share about that. I do want to mention too, hopefully Jeffrey, you're on the list for our monthly our Gov delivery, like our email that comes out. And I've been including syphilis information there and updating it as well. And I can also drop some links to our STD program and clinic and syphilis pages in the chat today as well.
Also, is the health department providing condoms that we could pass out in camps?
We do have condoms. I am not on the STD team, but I will connect with them, and I will find out how we can make that happen.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And Isaiah, anything to update from you today?
No, not very much. For those of you that were here last week, I did give some data updates, and I mentioned pretty briefly that some of the data was in flux just because of the data backlog, and that there were some deaths that the medical examiner were still pending the cause of. So just letting folks know that I'm still in touch with our APD team just to see if we can get some updates about that, because I know several folks here had expressed interest in learning more about that, especially the cause of death and whatnot. So I don't have any updates about that, but it's pending. So hopefully by the end of next week, our team will get back to us about that. But other than that, I don't have anything as big as Jenny today.
All right. Thank you, Isaiah. And let's see, I don't think we have anybody from the Department of Emergency Management here. So let's jump back to our breakout conversation. So given the amount of time we have left in today's meeting, I'm not sure if we want to do a full 15 minutes, but I do think we can carve out a good 10 minutes to talk for small breakout rooms for folks to talk about what we wanted to do is to tie into the creativity and art conversation related to homelessness, and to give something kind of positive for people to share what ideas you have, and so that we can get down a list of additional ideas along that line that can be used in doing outreach and connecting to the community of folks who are currently homeless. So let me set up the breakout rooms. You know the routine. We will go ahead and spend 10 minutes in the rooms. If folks can go ahead and assign somebody to take notes, and then when we come back here, paste those notes into the chat so that Timothy can do a summary for next week. That would be fantastic, and especially in this conversation, because sharing ideas is really what we're trying to get to. And we know that this is a creative bunch here. So and thank you, Courtney, for the reminder. If you need to grab the chat because of this Zoom issue that exists and you need to have that chat today, you can grab the chat now before I send folks to breakout rooms, and you won't lose the content from earlier in the meeting. So let me give folks a moment to do that, and then we'll head off to the breakout rooms, and I'll stop talking and you all can start talking. All right, let's go ahead and make that happen, and we'll be back here at 10:42. All right, just a quick reminder, folks will be back here in about 45 seconds.
And Jay, Pierce Transit puts it on their website that they, right?
Don't even get me started. Don't even.
There's a smart aleck in here somewhere.
I hope you're cursing like I am on the inside, Jay.
All right, folks are back here in 20 seconds.
Oh, Monique, really quickly, are you there?
Yes, folks are back here in 2 seconds.
Are you happy with that sun catcher?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
There's going to be that one and then like 5 other pieces that I'm going to drop off at FOB for the auction.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I know that 10 minutes is not nearly enough for the breakout, but we've had other good content today, so that's why we cut that time short. It does make me wonder though. Okay, let's so the reminder, whoever took notes during the breakout, please drop those into the chat so that Timothy can work his magic. And speaking of Timothy working magic, do you have notes from last week to share?
I do. I'm unmuted, right? You're all hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Excellent. So yeah, I have some notes to share for last time. I think you got them, Rob, and can put them up.
Yeah, let me put them on screen.
All righty.
You'd think I would be organized.
You usually are. So the whole first page is, my little homage to the cultural and spiritual grounding that Rosemary offers us every week. Always nice to kind of have something in front of us to remind us of that inspiration. Oh, shit, Rob, I'm sorry. Can you take it off share for just a second? I did that thing where I blocked one of my screens. So I can't see
problem.
anything to look at.
Language,
All right,
Timothy.
you can go back. I'm good.
Okay.
All right. So last week where the city was on the call and they shared some of the work that they were doing and feedback that they're seeking and rental housing code changes. And the question was, what do we like about that and not? And we had some really good feedback. And I divided that feedback into things that we like, things that we're kind of wondering about, things that we could really do without, and things we said. And, you know, under the things we like, you know, that's probably not exactly what's in there, but, you know, it ranged from, yeah, this is okay, don't really have any concerns with it, could be more ambitious, but, you know, it's achievable, to, you know, some specific things that people were excited about and actually showed some real excitement about, like, you know, caps on screening criteria and the problems with their and credit ratings and so forth. I mean, there are real changes here that need to be made, and this moves it in the right direction as the feedback about that. And then there's this kind of, we wonder about these things, and this is kind of the kvetching list, that we would bring in some concerns to this, and mostly just talking about how it doesn't go far enough. And then there's things that, you know, actually pisses people off, things we could do without, the huge rent increases, the box that we're placed in by state law that makes changes that really help renters so hard to do. The concerns really about the restrictions in this making it harder to provide housing, and particularly around the shared housing rules and how that may have an impact of actually reducing housing available on the market. And then there's just a handful of kind of notable quotes, you know, talk of open revolution, you know, which is always, I don't know, kind of nice to see. MLK talking about beware of gradualism. And then somebody, I don't know who this was, saying that this is the kind of thing that gives incrementalism a bad name. So that is kind of my little summary of the summary of last week. And I hope that that was helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, as always, Timothy. Sorry I missed the conversation. But yeah, that's great. So again, please drop your notes from today's breakout into the chat so Timothy can do his summary next week. And let's quickly get through what we can of the rest of the agenda. In terms of our advocacy updates, I already dropped the information about the City of Tacoma's homelessness update into the chat for folks to grab. And I can do that again if somebody needs it. We also had Evan speak earlier about the 1/10 of 1% sales tax for affordable housing and the need for folks to advocate for that. The one thing that I did want to mention before I move out of the advocacy update is that tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the Evergreen State College campus in Tacoma on 6th Avenue, our representatives in the 27th district. So if you're in Tacoma, big chunk of Tacoma, there's a town hall meeting. And speaking of rent and the lack of rent stabilization tools for folks who are currently renters, it's an opportunity to talk to Speaker Lori Jenkins, Representative Jake Fye, and Senator Yasmin Trudeau about what are they doing to help stabilize housing for folks. There's been a real concentration in Olympia this year on the missing middle housing bill. And the potential for increasing housing supply to try to help with the affordable housing crunch. The challenge with that is that affordable housing that will be built as a result of either the missing middle bill changing zoning or the governor's referendum, if it moves forward and gets passed by the people of the state, is that housing is going to be a ways out. And also it's not really going to help for folks who are at the 30% AMI and below area median income, who are the folks who become homeless far too often. So I know I'll be there tomorrow morning at the Evergreen campus, and hopefully some others can join as well. It's an in-person meeting from 10 to noon. Let's see. So I don't think Jan's here to do an update for Safe Sites for All. I will do a reminder that the Safe Sites for All committee meets on Mondays at noon. Everyone is welcome, and the link to the meeting is on the pchomeless.org website. So hope to see folks there on Monday. Any other committee updates we wanted to share with the larger group? Rosemary, anything come to mind?
Not this week. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, great. So that gives us a little bit of time to do some good trouble announcements and any success stories. Anything to share for the good of the order? Yeah, Norman.
I'm proud to announce we're going to start breaking ground on our permanent tiny home village in the city of Fife. We've been at a temporary structure for a while. Want to talk with you, Jay, at 1 o'clock. I love the idea of bringing art to the village and humanizing it. Richard kind of nailed it when he says, God, you go to the tiny home villages and what you see is 1, 2, 3 as far as labeling them as opposed to naming the houses. And I just love the idea of beautifying it, because for a year it is someone's home and it should feel that way. So I think today was really good as far as bringing case management. So thanks, guys.
In terms of positive updates, I did want to call out this one slide from the City Council study session that mentions the Freedom Project at Brotherhood Rise on the hilltop, which is anticipated to open next month with 16 units. And also we're eagerly awaiting within the next week or two, potentially, the safe parking site at Holy Rosary opening. And that again is going to be open to 20 vehicles. They're going to start with just cars and trucks, but move potentially to include space for RVs down the road. So there was a lot of stuff in the City Council update that was not positive, but that was one slide that does show some positivity. Others who want to share anything here before, while we still got the large group in the room? Large-ish, we're down to 38 folks. Yeah, Teresa.
Just a quick thing that relates to the art thing today. New Connections has for years been putting together these makers kits, which are just cards. So it's like a packet that a person could make 10 cards with. Richard is, his note about the postage is a thought to maybe also put a stamp on the envelope. So if anyone would like some of those, just email me. I'm going to post my address in there. I'm also collecting things to take out to the outreach that Richard spoke about. So if you have any of that kind of jazz and would like to provide it, let me know. If you are a place that could use some of these kits, let me know how many you would like and what the setting is, because that has something to do with how we put them together. Anyway, take care.
Thanks, Teresa. And Jay.
On the ideas of crafting, I was thinking about talking to Alan at Holy Rosary to see if they have like a corner I could store some of the stuff at. And when it comes to supply, I saw one of the concerns was that it's expensive, and it is. On the other hand, what we can do is ask for any and all used donations that somebody's done with. And we can do that by posting that at the crafting locations that people buy things from. Beach shops, Michael's, things like that. Michael's would probably partner with us. They do have an entire program for people to teach crafts and be their own business through that entity. So there's some options that we can work with our community and with our crafting stores to try to get supplies in. Half of the stuff that I did when I was homeless was things that were donated. People would hear that I was a crafter, and I carried around a rucksack full of beads at one point, and I could make a necklace for you in 10 minutes, and you could pick out your beads and I would make it, and then you could come back and pay me for it, and there you'd have your item. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this. And it's just so nice to hear the support from everyone. And I can't imagine the lives that we're going to impact with it. So that in itself is great news. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, and thanks for keeping the ideas coming. All right, so I think that wraps it up for us this week, folks. I don't know how it magically happens every week, but somehow we managed to end the meeting on time. So, as always, if you have the capacity and interest, we will be having a small group of us stay on this call to plan upcoming meetings. I think next week is pretty much a blank slate right now. So if you have ideas, hang on. And for everybody else, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sunshine before the rain hits on Sunday. And away we go. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too, Norman.
Thank you, everyone.